well, another opportunities that I found that have opened up through my own networking now, I teach art. And so I've developed some really interesting partnerships with some of the other art institutions in the city. You know, I know gallery owners, I know people who work at museums, I know other artists. And so because of that networking and because of my social contacts in that particular circle, I'm able to bring people into my classroom. I find people all the time, artists that will say, yeah, I'd love to come in. I'd love to come in and show my work. I'd love to come in and demonstrate something. Or, hey, why don't you bring your students over to my gallery, see what I'm doing. And that really enhances the experience.
You know, it's interesting. And I can tie, and I'm sure Susan, you, because I know you volunteer, and Alice, I think you do some little volunteering in the community, don't you? I think that's another thing too. With all my volunteering in the community that I do, I bring back that kind of information to my clients who are looking for job opportunities, and they can make the connections. And I think when you're volunteering and you're sharing different expertise in the community, you learn to build business relationships, and I call them business friends.
Well, yeah,
and it's a really good way of shifting and gathering information and connecting with people.
Yeah, I think that connecting business with your personal relations and the community, that just really helps.
It really
Because then you
does.
have strong relationships and a strong connected community.
In every area, right. And you never know who you're going to meet and who's going to help you with something.
Exactly.
I mean, you have to really be open to meeting new people, and not just because, like Mary Beth said, to give each other business cards. But you go in a coffee shop and you see somebody sitting there and you start a conversation, and you don't know where that's going to lead. I mean, it can lead up to something that if you're looking for a job, an opportunity. You have to be willing to put yourself out there and open up to people and just learn, and just even from learning from other people. I mean, I think that I've learned so much from my associations since I've been at PACE. From first when I worked for Richard Chatton, who was just a wonderful, wonderful guy. I learned so much from him. I learned so much from my previous employers, and they introduced me to a whole new group of people because they worked with them. So then when I was looking for a job, I had like these connections that I never ever would have had if I hadn't had the opportunity to meet these people. And when Ed came, I mean, I learned so much from him. And you just take all those learning pieces that you,
and now you're sharing those things with us.
And I'm sharing, and you build your knowledge, and it's just this amazing what you can learn about and can help other people with. So I just feel like I'm very fortunate because I have these people to learn from now. I can share what I learned from them, and hopefully would be able to help somebody else in a situation.
That word that you guys have just been using, sharing. I think that's probably like the really next important step once people begin to become cognizant of the fact that networking is important. It's not just a selfish kind of networking to see what you can glean from other people to use yourself, but when you take the next step and you become like the connector, you hear of a neighbor who is looking for a job, and then you think, hey, you know what? I know someone who is in that field, and here, let me make that introduction to you. And you become that kind of a networking yenta.
Now you have to do the definition of yenta, Mary Beth.
No, being a Catholic girl, I'll bet you could define it better. Okay, give us.
Well, I think yenta is a person who is talking. Usually, it's a Yiddish expression primarily for gossiping, but I think really I'd like to put it in more positive tones, and that is talking with people and being open with people. But it's interesting, as many times as my clients, and I teach good networking tools and job search training technique skills, is that the one thing they don't do, and that it's important to mention here, is that when you connect with people, you have to stay in touch. It's not just making that one-shot connection, but it's then keeping in touch and building your network. In my industry, they say that you have to be connected with someone at least 4 to 5 times. Now, that doesn't mean just face-to-face. It could be with an email, it could be with a note, It could be on the phone, it could be a face-to-face, but if you connect 4 or 5 times, then you have an opportunity to start building that business relationship, that networking relationship, and now you have established a business friend. But you cannot say that I networked with somebody and then just end with it. I think that's what people start to do, and they don't reconnect. It is a connection, and a constant connection that you feel comfortable, being with. It's keeping in touch.
Yeah, it's a connection as opposed to the collection.
Yes,
of
exactly.
friends. You know,
You're not just
business
collecting,
cards.
Susan was mentioned, you're not just collecting their business cards, but what you're doing is you're doing something with that business card. You're connecting, you're reconnecting, and maybe you don't see someone for a little bit, but you want to always keep your name on top of their brain.
I always think that on certain social networking platforms that people just are collecting friends, and they don't, they just see somebody that they might recognize their name, and they invite you as a friend. And so really, I mean, I don't think it means anything because you don't have any kind of relationship with those people. If you just want to say, oh, I have 100, 200 friends, but what are those friends mean? What kind of relationships do you have? Do you see them? Do you help them? Do you share information with them? Do you go to them for advice? Do you collaborate with them? Well, no, but they just think that that's important that you have all these friends. I would rather have 5 really good collaborations with business or friends that really mean something, that we're doing something productive together, and that we're sharing our information and then building that core out to really building really good connections that are meaningful.
I always tell the story in my class that I'm the CEO of a corporation, and then I ask them what's the name of my corporation, and it's obviously the Dick Group, that sort of thing, Bonnie Dick Group. And I have built what I call a board of directors. Now, the people on my board of directors, those are my really close networking people. Those are the people who I would go to first for advice or some information that I'm gathering. And you're right, it's not just collecting, but it's sharing, it's collaborating, it's a give and take situation.
Quality.
It's the quality, absolutely, no doubt about it.
And I have to laugh when we're talking about collecting like all the names on the online networking groups.
Well, LinkedIn is especially.
LinkedIn, and lately I've been on Twitter, and so all of a sudden I've got like all these people that are following me, and I'm thinking, are these my friends or are they my stalkers? It's like I don't know them, but and then they click on your profile, like, ooh, don't really want to know them, but they're following me, and I'm listed as a friend of theirs. Kind of scary.
Well, there's been many. I'm on LinkedIn, and there's been many people who have tried to invite me to be on, part of their LinkedIn, and I'm really cautious about it. I don't always accept everybody's invitation. I think it's important to identify who you want to really, accept as an invitation, because sometimes people, you don't know them, they don't really know you, and there's no reason to connect.
There's no connecting.
There's no connecting.
Connecting thing there. Maybe somebody introduced you to them.
Well, I belong to my company is huge. It's a huge IT company, international company. And when I first went on LinkedIn, there were a lot of people from Montreal and all over who wanted to connect, but that's not my practice. My practice is in IT, so there really wasn't a reason for me to really connect with these people at this time anyway.
Well, in high school it's a little different because I was at a football game last night, and you have to, I was working concessions volunteering, and you have people from West Geauga come over, and you actually have to interact with them, and then, you just form so many friendships, and the important thing, like we were talking about, is you have to create some kind of value to that friendship. You can't just say, oh, I'm friends with them just because you know them. You have to really know who they are and why you're friends with them. Otherwise, what's the point? You can talk to them, oh, hi, how are you? But
that's an acquaintance, not a
it's not a friendship, and I don't think it's appropriate for people to call it.
Not everybody you meet is going to be, a connection either.
Right.
Yeah,
it's just, it just happens, I think, naturally. And I think people that really feel like they have a lot in common and they have a lot of common interests will, of course, attract